There was once, and it ran on TNT, a great series. Ran, I think, for 4 or 5 years. It was called The Last Ship. Michael Bay was the producer, really kind of beneath his level to come down to smaller network TV. I think he was sending a message. But anyway, the story had multiple parts to it. It started out with a huge pandemic that swept the globe and wiped out 80% of the people, and they worked on trying to cure it and so forth and so on. And then they had massive food shortages due to implanted disease that infiltrated the crops. And then there was a Red Dawn invasion. And those were the three central themes of that show. Well, we have a last ship too. And if Michael Bay was still making the last ship, this would undoubtedly be another season with a different theme because the last ship has sailed. And this is bad news for you and me. We'll explain it right here on the Common Sense Show. My name is Dave Hodges. I'm the host. We're the show freeing America one enslaved mind at a time. It's not a question about if we're going to have a recession. It's a question about how severe the recession would be. And I can offer you something that is absolutely recession proof because it's coming from one of the protected cows in the economy that will not go down no matter what happens to the economy. And it takes advantage of IRS code 7702. And it's my good friends from Iron Hawk Financial that can help you set up all kinds of insurance and so forth, IULs. But here's the deal. You draw from it, you make money on it, and it's tax free and it's perfectly legal because it's what the super rich have been using to get filthy rich for a very long time. You go, whoa, that's pretty interesting. It is very interesting. And now it's being made available to you. Now, this is not for everybody. This is not a nickel and dime job. This is highly professional. You don't get through this in 1 or 2 days. You're looking anywhere between 4, 8, sometimes 10 weeks because the people at Ironhawk follow every single rule meticulously. And they'll tell you right away if this is right for you or not right for you. They don't want to waste your time or waste their time either. But if you're sitting on some money deciding what to do with it, the bank is the worst place you can put it right now for reasons we're actually going to discuss in later segments. Just to say this, Dodd-Frank 2010, they can keep your money anytime they feel like it. That's right. They wrote that into law after the collapse in 2008. They wrote it into law in 2010. Don't let them do that to you. Let the people at Ironhawk Financial consult with you. No pressure whatsoever. Go to dhawk.com. That's dhawk.com and let them guide you through the process. Well, the last ship has indeed sailed. The last oil tanker, with a couple of minor exceptions, okay, but basically we're talking about the last ship has sailed with oil. It left port on April, was it February 27th, the day before the war started, and now it's arrived at port. And from here on out, we're living on what I call borrowed oil. It's a phrase I invented kind of spontaneously when I was on the Kim Iverson show. She has a great show, by the way. If you've not checked that out, you should go there. And she took our interview and divided it into three parts. And one of the parts was I said, listen, we're soon going to get the last ships. Well, we now have the last ship. And what this means is skyrocketing prices. I don't need to be Nostradamus, or as my friends call me, Nostrahodges, to be able to predict this. It's supply and demand. It's common sense. Prices are going to astronomically go up. And I said this on Kim's show, and I've said it for a couple of years now. If diesel ever reaches 650 and it stays there for any length of time, truckers aren't going to work. They can't make money. Now, some people will say, Dave, it has to be 750. Okay, we could argue that point, but we are headed towards that disaster right now without splitting hairs. Let's admit what's going on. Hyperinflation is coming. Shortages are coming. Fertilizer issues are coming. We've already talked about that, and that's even in the mainstream media. How are we going to get our fertilizer? We're coming up here in a few months to harvest season. So even if the spigot got turned back on today, let's see, what is that, about a 3 month journey with a tanker? Do you understand what I'm telling you? So, yeah, listen, I don't do a lot of advertising for My Patriot Supply because I've got contracts with other people. But I will say this right now, if you're not storing food, you're nuts. And these people are really the best at what they do. And they got great specials. Go to preparewithdave.com. That's preparewithdave.com. You need to get ready for what's coming with the food. Absolutely, positively. Now, let's continue on with this analysis. So the just-in-time deliveries could stop in July. This is the projection I'm reading. And even if the oil is turned back on, we're going to have months of hardship. Now, I'm not saying we can't come out the other side okay, but we won't come out whole and totally intact. We'll come out maybe in survival mode. But there are some people who are living month to month that can't absorb this. Oh, how many people is that? Well, let me give you a stat you've heard me talk about. 65% of America, 2 out of 3 Americans can't afford a $500 car repair bill. They're living month to month. Oh, the rich are rich beyond belief. No, I don't want to sound like Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders. Wealth is bad, says billionaire Bernie. Yeah, he's worth over $1 billion. Ocasio-Cortez was once a bartender and now she's a multimillionaire. Isn't that nice how insider trading works for them? And it would send you and I to prison. And you wonder why I am so sour on what's going on and I'm calling for tossthemall.com. And me saying that is why my views are hit the toilet. And it happened 6 weeks ago. And this is happening across the board. Anyone who starts a movement, okay, is suffering in views. And we are looking for a new home and we're going to phase out. That's another story for another time. But the reality is this: we are facing monumental problems because everything that you buy, everything that you need comes from oil. You go, well, Dave, I have my own garden. Okay, where do you get the fertilizer? Hmm? Where are you going to get your toilet paper from? It's shipped. It's shipped, and Costco and Walmart are already making provisions for the shortages. They're already got plans in play that are coming in at the end of this month, the beginning of next month, to limit purchases on certain items. This is going to be misery. And what are the social implications? Okay, up until now, when we've had people pissed off and you get hired mercenaries to get in the streets called Antifa and other people, okay, well, that was them. What we're going to see if this goes on through the summer, we're going to see average people in the streets. I mean, literally, all hell could break loose. We're seeing airline flights canceled right now, right before your eyes. We got a trip scheduled a little later in the summer, and I'm wondering if that flight's not going to get canceled. And I paid money to attend a venue and an activity, and I'm just wondering if that's money down the drain. But the worst thing that would happen is I get there and I get stranded and can't get home. And we were recently on vacation for a while, and you saw me in Studio B while we were gone. And I was hoping, oh boy, I'm hearing about all these flights in Europe, and I'm hearing even LA is canceling flights. And I'm going, oh my gosh, I hope we get home. That'd be the worst thing ever to get. Yeah, exactly. So we're looking at all the problems, and I'm telling you this right now. London is rioting, and I'm going to bring this back home. Have you seen the videos? Millions of people in the street across the UK. And Scotland's not far behind. I'm getting mail from Scotland, people that come to our show, who come on their own volition because they're certainly not getting an alert that we've done something. But they're coming to our show and they're saying, Dave, we're not far behind. We're starting to see the beginnings of protests ourselves. Australia is creating a whole government bureaucracy to censor the public because they're afraid of people organizing against government policy. That's in the news today. Well, how far behind do you think we're going to be? I mean, we've been betrayed by this administration. Do you think I say that lightly? Some people don't want to even hear me anymore because I worship the ground Donald Trump walks on. No, I supported him for 3 elections, 10 years. I did massive investigations into voting practices in Arizona. I made enemies. I made some friends and allies as well. But nonetheless, I stirred the pot because I was upset. And for what? For a man who's setting up business deals with foreign countries involving stablecoin and payment plans that are benefiting his kids to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. Oh, that's happening. We'll break it down for you right now. I think there's bigger news than that, the enrichment of a politician's family, but it's going on. The rich continue to get rich. They won't feel what's going on, but you sure as hell will. And you should be upset. And I'm going to say this again. If we get to the midterms, and who knows? I mean, Trump seems unconcerned about his polls, right? Would you agree with me on that? So if we get to the midterms, if you vote for anyone, unless it's if Massey survives the Israeli lobby onslaught of $42 million being spent against him in the biggest congressional primary race in American history, all with Adelson and Zionist donor money, the same people behind TPUSA. Yeah, that's right. We got foreigners trying to buy congressional seats. It happened in New Orleans, just, I believe it was on Thursday, and now it's happened here with Massey, and I'm afraid Massey's going to lose. At one time, I thought he was going to survive, but the donation amount from people like Miriam Adelson went from 10 million to 42 million. So Trump is not concerned about the economy. And he's systematically showing you if you oppose anything I do, we'll get you out and we'll use foreign money to do it. So this is lockstep takedown of American economy. That he knows fully what's happening to us. He knows fully what's coming this summer. I don't know why he went to China because he got his ass handed to him. That's right. That's not me saying this. That's actually a direct quote from a paper in Saigon. A direct quote said, America can't be depended on. The petrodollar is dead. The petrodollar is dead, ladies and gentlemen. People are fleeing to precious metals. The petrodollar is dead. That means the dollar is dead. And there is actually a practice going on with the banks right now that I'm going to cover today. It'll seem unrelated to my genre, but here's the deal. When I tell you what the banks are doing to senior citizens, we're getting a preview of when we go from failed dollar to digital currency. And this is why Peter Thiel and all his business thugs are in the Trump administration now and on the Science and Technology Committee. You're going to get a taste of what a digital economy is going to be like. You've already heard the king, no, not Burger King, the King of England, who said barely a voice above a whisper because he's so sick. He said, if you don't get digital ID, you won't function in society. We just said that on Friday. People are in the streets there. People are going to be in the streets here. It's total chaos. I don't like it. I want peace, calm, quiet, the Constitution adhered, everyone's rights protected, anyone to worship what they want, say what they want, as long as they're not threatening anybody. I feel that we have lost those things and we're about ready to come into a crisis. And when a crisis happens, a government uses authoritarian means to take control. And usually, when governments take authoritarian control, they don't let go. Once they get a law passed, a tax implemented, a martial law policy, it becomes permanent. And then you have to ask yourself, we're not deporting people anymore. And you heard me, I'm in favor of deporting the criminal alien gangsters that are harming people, but we're not even deporting those people. I'm not in favor of mass deportation. And I've taken a lot of heat for that view. It's not practical. I don't think it's humane. And if you know anything about the Trail of Tears with President Andrew Jackson, you understand that historical reference. But I will say this, we're still building illegal immigrant detention centers. We got one going in for me about 20 miles away. It's meeting with a lot of opposition from Democratic state leaders in our, it's about the only thing I agree with the Democrats on, that this could be used for nefarious purposes. And this is what the Democrats are saying here. The governor of Arizona, who's as corrupt as the day is long, and she's been tied to two political financial scandals in the mainstream media. And then her defender, the attorney general, hear no evil, see no evil, and I'll protect you, Miss Governor, just take care of me. These people are saying something that I finally agree with. These detention centers should be looked at with an eye of suspicion. If we're not deporting, who's going to go into these facilities and for what reason? Now, if you think that sounds paranoid, I would say get out a history book and start reading about Europe in the 1930s, in Italy, in Germany, and even other countries across Europe where the crackdowns came. You look at China and Japan at the same time frame. Human behavior doesn't change. And all you need to do to validate that, when you go back and you look at ancient Israeli history in the Bible, Moloch, Baal, Asherah, these demonic entities worshipped in statues, flying in the face of devotion to God that Abraham tried to carve out for his people. We're dealing with the same things today. This is really a spiritual war, but it's manifesting on right now a financial front. And I haven't even talked about how the war could explode. That's another topic for another time. And I will tell you this, when I first heard Douglas McGregor talking about Trump last year, I was a little concerned because I know he's a great American, served his country bravely, has done tremendous things, has a great background, and he's someone that deserves to be listened to. And I think, why are you so anti-Trump? He's saying the same things today, and they're coming true, that he said was coming 6 months ago. You should be listening to retired Colonel Douglas McGregor, who was a high-level advisor. We have real issues in our country right now. Now, here are some warning signs to watch out for. Okay. Number one, I believe Europe is a month away from catastrophic collapse. How much we'll get in our mainstream media, I don't know. But their oil reserves run out that they're going to allocate to the public. And I don't believe they're going to deplete their military. But those oil reserves run out last week in May, first week in June. That's a consensus across the board that you hear about. That's something I wouldn't know about. I'm reporting what's out there in a popular fashion. You will have riots in Europe. You're going to have civil insurrection in Europe. And it's already showing signs of beginning in France. It's already started in the UK. Have you seen the videos on YouTube? Have you seen those? Or on X? I mean, there are people marching as far as the eye can see. And Australia's having a holy you know what moment, and they're sitting back, and like I said, they're creating an entire government bureaucracy to shut their citizens up because they're afraid of what's going on in France and most of all what's going on in the UK. Canadians aren't far behind either. So when you see these things transpire, we're next. We have a little more insulation with oil, cash reserves, and so forth than these other nations do. But that ain't going to go on forever. But I have bad news for you. When the full poop hits the fan, we don't have the longest staying power. It's kind of like the boxer who can take the best punch and keep on fighting. That ain't us. Do you know who is? Who that person is now? That country? It's China. And we're not even a destination for much investment anymore, unless it's going into the hands of the private elite and they're doing sweetheart deals with your money, government money. But China, their investments is stability investment has maintained. Um, Germany is in the toilet. The UK is in the toilet. Italy's in the toilet. The US isn't far behind these countries. We are on the edge of total absolute hell on earth. And basically, those of you, few of you who know me personally, I often hear this, Dave, you're so positive in your personal life and other things you've done professionally. Yeah, but do you want me to come on here and lie to you? I'm here because John McCain tried to steal my property without compensation, along with 300 of my neighbors, and it led to an 8-year battle that we eventually won. And along the way, I started to see how corrupt the media was, how much they lie to the people. I started to see how corrupt government was, that this wasn't a standalone issue, and that the corruption is off the charts. And I just said, I think this is my calling. This is why God called on me to do this. And so I tried to do this as honestly as I can. So I've given you here about 4 points here that should cause grave concern for all of you, which is why I talk to you about things like storable food, protecting your assets, go to 7702 with Ironhawk Financial at dhawk.com. You need to start protecting yourself. Everything right now that we're advertising for, we have two investment opportunities out there on the table from us. And I do believe if you've got money, this is one of the things that you should do because those markets aren't going away even if we go into a full-blown depression because it suits the government's needs. That's why. Then we talk to you about gold. We talk to you about food. We talk to you about protecting your assets. This is why we talk to you about gold and silver. This is about surviving what's coming because what's coming, we're going to have one hell of a tsunami. Okay. And the people that prepare right now in the ways that I'm talking about are the ones that are going to come out the other side in better shape. Now, unfortunately, most of my audience will not hear this message for obvious reasons. I'm going to ask you to hype and to share if you're hearing this on social media. If I decide to play this for our radio audience, and I probably will, and also on our podcast, I would ask that you would share this. All our platforms are digital because people need to be warned. Now, you don't have to agree with my entire assessment. You don't have to agree with Colonel McGregor, but I think you have to agree that when the last oil tanker shows up, we're in big freaking trouble. And it's time for you to act. You go, well, I don't have any money. Okay, buy an extra loaf of bread. Stock up on your medicines. This is why we talk to you about this bad boy at Nanosoma Spray, the liquid spray at iwantmyhealthback.com/Dave Hodges, because I don't know if you're going to have access to medicines because if they're not shipped, how are you going to get it? Have you asked that question? And as a discussion, your doctor may look at you cross-eyed, just say, I'm worried about the economy. I'm worried this will not be shipped. The last oil tanker just came in. And look at your doctor's faces. Well, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, finish the sentence for him. Doctor, can you help me? Okay, soothe my paranoia. Don't sit on this, people. Seriously, do not sleep on these facts. I've been doing this. I had a radio show that started in '07. I started writing about our plight and, what McCain and Ted Kennedy were up to and how you couldn't trust them and look what they're doing to us. I started doing that in '04. So I've been at this for 22 years and I have never seen things like this. This is the end of the global economy as we know it if this doesn't get straightened out. I have heard extreme things, and I really pray they don't happen. Tactical nukes to destroy the underground missiles, of which there are supposedly 45,000. 50,000 drones is what I'm hearing. Those are estimates, of course. Earthquake weapons, if you ever looked at the document Air Force Owning the Weather 2025, yeah, they exist. It's Project HARP. Beam electromagnetics up to the ionosphere like a pool shot off the side panel into the side hole. It comes back to predetermined location, shakes fault lines, and boom, there you go. But can you imagine if we did either one of these things, the outcry from the world against us? This would turn the world against the United States. And I'm not even sure we have the technical expertise to deliver this. I know some of you people from military backgrounds in the intel community are probably laughing at me right now, but I don't know that. You may know that. I know what's in that document with the patents, Air Force Owning the Weather 2025. I know what's there. I know theoretically it's possible, but I can't tell you we have delivery systems to do these things. But the fact that people are talking about this says how desperate things really are. Now, I've gone on a little longer than I intended because I can't have people I care about. I've gotten to know a number of you through the years. I can't have you sit on this. This is not a problem that, well, it's inconvenient, but this will work its way out, like most problems do. And if we are indeed moving towards the end days, if this is indeed a biblical event, let me just remind you of one thing. There'll be a time when you might be repairing something on your roof and you get the word, and it's time to run for the hills. It's in the book of Revelation. I hope we're not in that time, My preference is not to live through that time, but I don't think we're going to have a choice. Stay tuned, people, because we have more to follow on this. And some of it's actually good news because we do have options. But anyway, take these two sponsors we talked about seriously because better to eat the storable food that you didn't need for the crisis that didn't come. And the worst thing you're out is future food at cheaper prices than you get in the grocery store, higher quality. But I'm telling you, don't sit on this. Food, water, guns, gold, ammo, natural medicine, tools, and most of all, the Bible, because we're going to have to do some rebuilding. And like the founding fathers who built this government based on godly principles that we have moved away from, we need to return to that. I'm Dave Hodges. This is the Common Sense Show. We'll see you back here again next time.